everyone. So, good morning, good evening. So, I just wanted to give some description about the DevOps, the introduction, and I also wanted to share you guys a good example that you everyone can relate in this current thing. So, I just wanted to give that example and also describe a high level about the DevOps. So, before going to that, so I just wanted to introduce myself. So, myself, Rakesh, and I have been over 10 years of experience in the DevOps. And I have been working in a couple of companies and I had started my career with the DevOps. So I have worked on most of the tools of the DevOps uh, in in the different companies. So having said that, I just wanted to start the session and hoping that would be helpful for everyone. So let's move to the slide. So yeah, these are the agenda topics that I have picked up, the high level thing. So it would be, you can consider it as a very basic thing to understand what the DevOps is. So introduction, so just introducing like what are the things that the DevOps is, what a DevOps is doing and other things. And I would say why DevOps, why do we need DevOps here, and explain DevOps in a simple term. So this is something I just wanted to highlight because this would be your real-time example and the scenario that you guys can, everyone can relate this with the process of the DevOps. And then comes to the DevOps advantages. Yeah, these are the main agenda items. So I made it very crisp so that it will not take much time and it would easily helpful to you understand about DevOps. So moving to the next slide, introduction. So what exactly the DevOps? So might be everyone might be aware, like people are mentioning, okay, DevOps is a practice, DevOps is a culture, DevOps is a process. So you might see this definitions across all the Google in the documentation and other things. So I'll start with this, but yeah, you may relate it in more better way though. But yeah, as it's a definition and other things everyone has to know. So I'm just letting everyone know in this introduction page, like where DevOps is kind of an practice, culture, and process. It's not a particular subject or anything. It's like kind of a process that is set. So in the coming slides, I'll be explaining it more clear, what the process is and what the practice is, what the culture is though. But yeah, just wanted you guys to have this terminology set, like what exactly the DevOps is and what are all the things this DevOps can enable to a individual or to a company. So if you see that in the right side, it performs continuous development, continuous integration, continuous deployment, continuous testing, continuous monitoring, continuous operation. So, oh, these are the different 6 C's we can consider. So, where exactly this DevOps helps and enables an individual to do. Yeah. So, having said so, I'll just move into the next slide. This is the main slide I wanted everyone to highlight over here. So explain DevOps being explained in a simple terms. So what exactly mean the simple terms? So I wanted to consider this as an everyone nowadays are ordering multiple things, so it may be the food, it may be the clothing, it may be any electric goods and other things. Everything is like kind of an in tips in an apps we are getting, and we are directly placing the order and we are getting the delivery. So I wanted to consider that as an example and showcase the process. And in the next in couple of minutes, you will be seeing and the relation between this with the DevOps. So consider an e-com application. So whether it may be any of the clothing thing, or you can also consider it a food delivery app. So I don't want it to highlight the names, whether it may be Swiggy, Zomato, or Flipkart, Amazon, whatever it is. So you can take an example of anything. So what exactly we do? Okay, we'll open app. What do we do? browse the products. Okay, what are all the products that we need? So we'll be browsing them. That it in all the apps we do the same thing. And yeah, whoever does the window shopping, they will also browse it to see what are the things that are there. That is secondary though. But yeah, here what they do as first step, he opens the app, browse the products. What is the next thing that they do? They place an order. So they place all the items to the cart and they place that particular order. So I'm not dividing it into multiple chunks though, but yeah, I wanted to mention straight away that okay, they will browse the products and they will place the order in the online. What is the next step that they do? So order received to delivery partner. So delivery partner here in the sense, like as mentioned earlier, different platforms, Swiggy, Zomato, or Flipkart, Amazon, whatever it is. So they will receive the order that you placed. So now you placed an order as an individual or a user, and that delivery partner team, they received that, okay, they received that there is an order getting delivered. So what they'll do immediately once the order is really received, they'll start packaging all the requested orders. So they'll start the things package and they'll try to gather and everything together and they'll start packaging things. And what is the next thing that they do? Verify that the order's placed. Okay, they'll be verifying. Okay, you placed the order and here this is the item. Is it correct? Is it correct quantity or is it correct brand or whatever it is? So they'll be verifying the orders over there. What is the next? So once the verification is done, so they'll pick the order. The delivery partner will be picking the order and head towards the customer. So the next thing is delivering to the customer. After picking the order, he will be delivering it straight away to the customer. So that could be a third party being involved. So I'll not concentrate on that. I wanted you guys to see the process, what it is. So delivering to the customer. So customer is something like something a user whoever started the browsing the products. Now he is seeing that the order he received that order. So after the customer received the order, what he will do, he'll be providing the feedback. That could be some scenarios people may ignore that, but there would be people and who would be looking for and providing the feedback. If we consider Swiggy and Zomato, so we'll be checking once we receive the order, we'll be checking if the food is correct or not, whatever the we ordered, is it correct? And does it has any other problems that we shouldn't see? So you can consider that as the thing, and accordingly, we'll try to provide the feedback, right? So this is the general day-to-day process where everyone is currently using the apps. So most of the members across are using this any particular application and trying to perform these actions. So these are the generic actions that generally everyone is doing day to day. So now I wanted to relate this with the DevOps process. So how am I going to do that now? Here you can see user browsing the products. I would relate something is planning on the implementation. Okay. What is the planning on the implementation here means? Like, okay, if I say there is a new feature coming up, so the team is planning on that. So they wanted to say, okay, this is the thing that feature has to come up, and this is the plan over it. So it has to be delivered in these many days. These are the things that are needed, requirements, and everything. So that is the first thing. And after the planning, what generally comes into picture? So after the planning, the developers start changing the necessary changes and they'll start pushing the changes to the repository. So repository here you can consider a Git or Bitbucket, whatever you guys are familiar with. So we'll be making changes, developer make the changes and he'll try to push it to the repository. So now after pushing it to the repository, what it happens? So as part of the DevOps process, when the change is pushed to repository, immediately there would be a job or the Jenkins that gets triggered. So making sure that the changes are being pulled and build gets triggered here. So what exactly the build gets triggered here in the sense? In an easy terminology, I can say that, okay, if the code is developed in Java and when the build is generated, So it would convert it into a machine understandable artifacts. To do that, we will be building that. So here we can use, we'll be having a different tools. That is secondary thing, but yeah, I would highlight here saying an example of the build tools as Maven, Gradle, MS Build. All these are the different build tools that generally will be used as part of the DevOps process. So, okay, now this I'm relating this order received to the trigger the build. What is the next thing? So whatever the builded artifacts is there, right? So that will be generating in the form of an artifacts. As I was saying, this would, you can consider it would be a jar or DLLs if it is a .NET, all the dot files, so which could be an mission understandable files. So that would be an artifact. So you can see relate it with packaging it with artifacts. And now what exactly that do? So once this is done, so we'll be testing the build code. So what exactly, okay, if there are any other test cases that got executed correctly, were there any issues or were there any kind of an scenarios, test scenarios that are failed. So we'll be testing that, right? So the same thing goes here. So this step you can consider this as testing that particular artifact and then pushing it to Artifactory. Artifactory is something again like kind of an Artifactory manager. So where you can consider the example as JFrog as one of the tool, Nexus is the another tool. And yeah, these are the other examples of the Artifactory. And then what happens next? So we picking up that artifacts from that particular Artifactory and then deploying the changes to the environment. So whatever the build, which means the push that has happened, the changes that got pushed, that will be deploying it to the environment. So the end environment, it may be, you can consider it to be dev, QA, or prod, whatever it is. Yeah, but that is being deployed it over here. So this is something like the changes are being pushed to the live website or live application. So this is the next stage. So what is the next thing then? You can see that the changes are visible to end user or the customer. Okay, so what exactly the end user or the customer is? Okay, if I say if I'm going to an Amazon application and there I was seeing an option of a checkbox notify me. So that was not there earlier. So with the help of this changes, so uh, that checkbox came into picture. So that changes would be visible once the changes are being deployed to the environment. So the user can see that particular change over there so that the new changes got pushed there. So this is the kind of an making sure that the changes got deployed correctly. So now what is the other thing? So after this, we'll be monitoring the changes and gathering what are the other feedback that the customers they provide, so like monitoring, okay, now if you say the changes are done, okay, after the changes are done, there could be a chance that the application gets crashed. So we need to make sure on that side too, right? So considering that monitoring will be, we'll be continuously monitoring the application, monitoring that particular health of the application, if everything is working fine. So that kind of monitoring. And another thing is like we generally we also get some kind of an feedbacks, right? So we'll be sharing the feedbacks to the delivery partner if we consider. So the same way we'll also this these applications also gather the feedback from the customers, and there are multiple open forums, so where we can say that, okay, we want this feature and we are voting for this feature. So something like that. So this is an example I just wanted to highlight where you can relate the DevOps process with a day-to-day activity that generally you do of placing an order in an e-commerce or any other food platform websites, and till it delivering to you and you providing the feedback to it. So this is a best example that I would say that everyone can easily understand. So that's I wanted to pick this. So I just wanted to add another thing, so the different tools that generally we use. So if I say planning, the teams use Jira, Azure, DevOps, and other things. And pushing changes to repository, here we can say Git, GitHub, Bitbucket, and there are many actually. So all those kind of an examples. And here changes are triggering to the repository. Here we can say that Jenkins as an example. We also have the GitHub Actions. We have the Circle CI. We have many CI/CD tools. So this is an example of the CI/CD tools, and building and generating the artifacts as I mean. And here we can also I also mentioned highlighted earlier. Build tool also comes into picture like Maven, Gradle, or MS Build. All these things. Packaging, here you can say that Artifactory, I would say the JFrog Artifactory or Nexus Artifactory as an example of this. And here I would say testing the code and publishing it. So testing, you can say we'll be testing it with the unit test, SonarQube test, code coverage, code quality, everything we can get tested it over here. And if the application teams have some kind of tests like regression tests and BDD integration tests, all the tests can be integrated and performed it over here. And then coming to this, deploying it to environment. So we do have a different uh, platforms again. So where exactly we are deploying? Are we deploying it to an Kubernetes cluster, OpenShift cluster, or we are deploying it to an AWS instance, Azure instance? So whatever the platform is, so we are deploying it over there. So this is, we can say that. And changes visible to end customer is just normal an application or the website or an mobile app or web app. So I would say that it's visible for them. Yeah, monitoring the changes. So we can say the monitoring is something like we can take different monitoring applications like Neuralink, Grafana, Splunk, all these comes into this monitoring picture. So yeah, this is an example of the different tools relating it with the delivery of an product. Yeah, this is the main thing that I wanted to highlight to everyone. Yeah, moving on to the next slide. Yeah, you can see this. Generally, you guys may see this picture, what generally DevOps say. So what are the things that we have done? So you can see everything here. Plan, code, build, test, release, deploy, operate, monitor. So we covered everything by giving an example of a delivery process. Yeah, moving on to the next slide. So why do we need DevOps, So these are the different things I would say. Like what happens? Shorter development cycle, so development cycle would be less, like within a sprint we can make sure that the feature is being developed and being deployed, being tested and deployed to the production environment. So this development cycle will be very less, and we with the help of this, so we'll be getting a quick feedbacks from the customers, and we will be making sure that we'll be implementing a new features, and it would not delay the process, so even the customer feels happy, right? If he sees a new features coming up into picture and if his feedback was heard and that was implemented, so that helps in the shorter development life cycle. And reduced deployment failures, so this also helps. DevOps helps in this deployment failures, earlier, way back when the DevOps was not into picture, so when the deployment gets failed, so they used to analyze and come back in days, and sometimes it also goes to weeks and months too. So we are reducing it with the DevOps, that kind of failures. And yeah, the same thing goes reduce time to recover. So we'll be having a less time to recover, So okay, when the deployment got failed, we can immediately roll back to the previous version, and we can also make sure if we fix that issue, so there could also be a chance that we can have the changes immediately deployed to the production. And DevOps also helps in improved collaboration and communication. So this is also major big thing I would say, like where if you see general definitions, they call DevOps as Dev plus Ops. where the collaboration, communication, and other things, So here it is responsible to perform that collaboration and communication between the developers and operation team, testers, QA, and other multiple teams. So DevOps helps in collaborating that and setting up everything in a single pipeline or a workflow. Increased efficiency. Yeah, this would increase the efficiency of the usage and reduced cost. So what I would say reduced cost is like it is reducing the effort of an individual to always make sure a one dedicated person working on performing this action manually, right? So where it would reduce the cost of an individual, where that if the DevOps set up the pipelines and everything works automatically, and then it would reduce the individual time and that internally saves the cost. So these are the reasons why DevOps. There are many of them though, but I'm just trying to highlight the required ones and the needed ones here. So next, moving on to the advantages. So most of them we covered in why DevOps though, but yeah, I would also add few other things with respect to the advantages. So less failures, we already talked about it. Efficiency, we talked about it. Lower risk, as I was saying, we'll have an easy chance to roll back to the previous version, or we can get back the details. And faster product delivery. This is another very important thing where we can say that, okay, we are delivering a particular application or a product within less time. So, and better user experience. Yeah, this would also help the user, right? So if you see the pipeline, you can just take a look at the pipeline and see where exactly it is causing an issue, where it is failing, what are the things that he has to implement and other things. A cost savings, I will not repeat it again as discussed earlier. Stability. So stability is the same like kind of an discuss point where we can make sure that the application is stable based on its previous revisions and versions, as we will be storing the artifacts. The different versions of artifacts can be stored in the artifactory, right? So yeah, and the next is faster updates. Yeah, as the product delivery is fast, we'll also get the updates fast, right? So if the changes are being pushed and deployed, the updates are also getting fast. So which means there would be a new features coming up without less time. Fewer failures. Okay, I think I repeated this again. And higher quality. Yeah, we can make sure that it is high quality. As I was mentioning earlier, we can include the coverage, the quality of the code, the unit tests, the vulnerabilities, the risks, and everything that can be calculated it across. These are the advantages of the DevOps. And I would conclude this, and I would wanted I would thank everyone watching this video, and I'll be coming up with the multiple videos and the multiple scenarios, so and helping out you guys with real-time scenarios or the examples, and kind of and working sessions too, if possible, and that makes your life easy with DevOps. And you, whenever there is a word DevOps, so you could have easily figured out, and it is an straight away way by taking the example of the delivery thing that I was specifying earlier. So having said that, yeah, thank you so much. Thanks everyone for the watching video. Um, Stay tuned for more updates and more videos. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.